How do you say your last name?
Fry Gang.
Frygang?
Yeah, like French fry and then gang, Fry Gang.
Okay, Frygang. Cool.
Nice and Americanized.
Yeah. What's the origin of the last name?
It's German.
German. Okay.
Fry
Yeah.
Gang, but
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
you'd say we just go Fry Gang now.
Yeah.
Too many like school assemblies where no one can say it right. We
Yeah.
just try to make it easier.
Do you have like German parents or grandparents or anything like that? Or how far back is the
Yeah,
ancestry?
I think if I got it right, my grandfather on my dad's side, I think his dad was the first immigrant in our family coming out of Germany, something like that.
Yeah. Like
Maybe one more.
like 1910 or something like that, or
Yeah.
before that even.
Uh-huh.
Cool. Yeah, I've got like a bunch of mixture of European heritage, I guess, but
Sure.
I'm pretty sure on my really both parents' side, I guess my aunt and uncle, I went to visit them when I was younger, and they had this genealogy of our family history on my mom's side,
Oh, sure.
and it went all the way back to like the founding of America. It was kind of cool.
Oh, really?
Apparently,
That far?
I don't know how verifiable this is, but apparently they said that my great 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 grandfather was George Washington's drummer boy in the Revolutionary War.
kidding. That's insane.
That'd be cool if it's true, and I kind of want to believe it, but I don't know if
Yeah.
that's just a story or not.
Yeah. We did some ancestry stuff too. My dad's parents are really into that. Ours didn't. We couldn't get that back far though, or that far back. So it's
Yeah.
really interesting that you could trace it so far.
Yeah, and I know also my mom's side. I'm not sure where it splits off in the mother-father lineage all the way back, but my like 5 greats grandfather was Samuel F.B. Morse, who invented Morse code.
No kidding.
So that's
Oh
kind of
my
cool,
God.
I guess. But yeah,
So your family name is Allen, right?
yeah, Alan.
Is that, you think that came from like immigration? Because I know a lot of people would take first names as last names to
Yeah,
Americanize it.
yeah. But like looking up Alan, I think most Allens have like English background.
Oh, okay.
But I guess that'd be my father's side. My mom had a British half brother.
Okay.
Who his family had this genealogy, or like this chart. So he had a bunch of like he was actually born in Britain and had a bunch of British siblings. So I've got like a ton of cousins, or like I don't know what second cousins or something that I've never met. But it's one of those crazy stories where my mom's dad was leading like a double life and had 2 wives that didn't know about each other.
Oh,
And
no
he had like a secret
way.
family.
Oh my God.
So each family was kept secret from the other, and he like split his time between them, and they found out about each other like it was like 15 years ago now.
15 years? Oh, okay. How long was he able to keep up the ruse? Do you know?
Well, they didn't find out about each other until his kids were like 40. Like my
Jeez.
mom was like 40,
Oh,
and she found out she had a brother, a half brother, that she didn't know about.
How do you do that? Like live in a family and be gone 50% of the time?
I don't know. They just have to believe that your work is really demanding or something. I could see it as like if you have a military job and you're kept like overseas a lot of the time.
Yeah.
You kind of have an overseas family and
Oh,
where you
sure.
originally are from family.
Uh-huh.
So then you only spend half the year with one family, and they believe that when you're overseas, you're just like doing war stuff, but really
Right.
you're doing some war stuff, but also just spending time with your secret family.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Secret families.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. Unfortunately, though, my uncle died in a car crash like 4 years after I met him. He was
Oh,
really cool,
man.
though.
No, I'm sorry.
But yeah, so
Is this the time to introduce?
yeah, this is the time to start the podcast. Welcome to the Regular People Podcast. I'm Wade Allen, and joining me today is Craig Frygang.
Thanks for having me on the podcast, Wade.
Oh yeah, no problem. Craig is a ballet dancer, which I think is really interesting. I don't know many of those, or any really, aside from Craig. And we'll probably be talking about that, as well as I'm sure politics, as the election just happened quite recently, and probably a few other things.
Mm-hmm.
So to start us off, give us a 5-year background on your life and what you've been doing in that time and how you've changed.
Sure. So 5 years ago from now, I still would have been in high school. And I went to high school in Milwaukee, here in Bayside. So my schooling was a bit interesting because I grew up in a couple of different places. I was born in Michigan, but I spent some time abroad in Germany at a international school.
Do you speak German at all?
A little. It's pretty rusty now.
Yeah. Did you
after 2
speak it
years.
well when you were there?
Yeah, it was fairly well. It was kind of like I took it in school, but just
Yeah.
through osmosis and like trying to buy
Yeah,
groceries
like immersion,
and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, it caught on pretty fast.
Was the school entirely taught in German, or was it just you had a German class in that school?
The school was English,
Oh, okay.
and that's part of the reason that we went. My dad works for a bigger international company, and
Yeah.
so they had just opened a battery wing. I think they were making lithium-ion car batteries. So he works
Okay.
in finance. So he was there to kind of oversee some of the starting of that company.
Yeah.
So when they moved us out there, we got into this school because it was the only English-speaking school, and so the company kind of paid to have us in there because that was the only option. But it was interesting going from like a very small town with classes of like 48 people to a giant international school that was a lot more like high life
Yeah.
people.
That sounds cool.
It was good exposure, I think, kind of eye-opening.
Yeah. You know where in Germany that was?
Yeah, I was in Hannover, so it's kind of like near Berlin, maybe an hour or two, and like Celle, it's around there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice town, beautiful town.
What age was that you were there?
I was there when I was like 12 and 13, so those like crucial years of growth.
Yeah.
So
That's a good time to be in a different country, I think.
Absolutely. And so then after that, I came back to Michigan for about 2 years, and then we moved to Milwaukee again for my dad's job. It's like the headquarters was here, so he was commuting a lot, and then
Oh, okay.
we just made the move
Wait, he was commuting from Michigan to Milwaukee for his job?
towards the end.
Oh, yeah.
Not
Before
like
moving.
every day, but a lot of the times for like meetings and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Made it easier on my family, I guess, to move closer. My school was good. The school I got into, or like our local public school, is a really good one in Wisconsin, so I was kind of fortunate to land there. And then the Milwaukee Ballet was there as well, which was a much higher level of training than what I was doing.
Do you mean it was like close by, or there was a presence at the school?
Oh, it was close by.
Okay.
There wasn't really a big company in Michigan where I grew up,
Yeah.
so I had like local studio that I went and
So
kind
you
of
were-
started training.
Interested in ballet still when you were in Michigan when you were younger?
Yeah, probably. I started when I was like 10.
I guess,
maybe.
yeah. I feel like ballet is definitely one of those good examples of a career that you probably have to start when you're young. But it seems like it's always that way. People are starting when they're 6 and 7.
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah. A lot of people I talk to do it when they're 4.
Four, yeah.
They put on like the tutus and they just like spin around in class for a few hours or whatever.
Yeah.
But,
Wow.
sorry, I got a bit sidetracked there. So I guess went to high school in Wisconsin, and it was good. I came in after freshman year, so it
Yeah.
took me a while to like find some friends and get grounded because most people had already made those connections. I just kind of jumped in, and I was always at ballet after school, so I had less like social time, I guess, than
Yeah.
most people. But I liked it that way. I like to be busy, so I don't mind. And so all throughout high school, I was kind of figuring out what I wanted to do, and my time was pretty heavily split because I would be at ballet like as soon as I got home, I had like 20 minutes, and I'd go to ballet, and then get home at like 9:30 or 10, and like try to do my homework or whatever. So it just became more like secondary.
Ballet was that long?
Yeah,
Wow.
usually.
Like 7 hours or something? Or-
Well, I would usually have like 3 or 4 hours every day
Yeah.
after, and then on the weekends we'd have like pretty big 6
okay.
or 7 hour days, depending. So pretty intense, I guess, for being
Yeah.
like 16 or whatever. It was good training for what I wanted to do. So as I kept going through high school, got to my senior year, everyone's trying to figure out what they want to do or whatever, looking at colleges. So I applied to 1 or 2 colleges. I got good grades, but I wanted to do ballet just because, mostly because it was what I was good at
Yeah.
at the time. And I wanted to give it a shot. The career is such like a timeline of when
Yeah.
you can do it. So I was like, well, I can always go back to school later if I want. But I mean, there's a fuse on my career as a ballet dancer. So I decided to pursue that. And I finished high school a semester early so I could do more ballet. And I also did a little bit of online university there just to try to like diversify myself.
Yeah.
I guess. And then I did a bunch of auditions at the end of the year. and ended up going to Texas, to Austin, and as like a trainee. So basically we had our own classes during the day and our own performances, and we do some work with the company. And it was a lot of hard work that year, but it was fun. And Austin was still one of my favorite cities.
You're there for a full year?
Yeah, I did a full year there. It's beautiful, sunny, warm. The food there was great. No awful like 12-inch snow deep winters.
Yeah.
So I didn't
like
miss that. I got a little bit spoiled from there. And
Wait, what age were you when you did that?
when I was in Austin, I would have been turning 18 that year.
So that was like pretty recently.
Yeah.
Because are you 20 now?
Yeah, I'm about to turn 21.
Okay, cool. Did you notice an interest come first or a talent come first as far as ballet goes? Because you said you were doing it because you were good at it.
Yeah.
Were you good at it and then you liked it, or did you like it so you became good at it?
That's a good question. It was, the way I got into it was kind of like this odd story, because we were neighbors with a family friend who owned their own studio, and my sister was a dancer way before I was. She had been going since she was like 4 years old or so. And one of the days that our friend was over that owned this studio, she told my mom, she's like, well, if your son ever wants to take class, I'll let him do it for free, because we don't have any boys. So we would love to have him, and it won't cost you anything. And my parents basically just wanted me out of the house. I was super active all the time. I had a lot of energy when I was young. So I was doing martial arts and sports, like Little League and soccer and all this stuff. And so they decided to put me in there, and it was a lot of fun, actually. And then the girl I liked from school was also in there at the time, so that made it.
That helps, yeah.
Yeah, that was a big motivation for my early years, was just to stay around her, I guess.
That is interesting, and it makes me think of one thing that I was talking about this a little bit in the last podcast episode, but the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell.
I love that book. That's a fantastic book.
It's great, and it talks about, how people become successful and become expert at what they're doing.
Right.
And so often they have these fortuitous circumstances that allow them to get really deep into certain like topics and they become really good at them. And usually it's like you get free access to something. In your case, you got free access when you were a young kid to ballet lessons. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a huge piece of the puzzle, because ballet classes are very expensive.
Yeah.
Mostly it's like a higher art, and so it's very like a thing to attain, I think, for higher class people's children, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so they charge those higher class fees for it. So I was very fortunate to be able to get my foot in the door for nothing.
Yeah, that's a great starting point.
Yeah.
Were either of your parents ballet people?
No.
Or just start with your sister?
No. It's kind of funny. My dad he was a marketing major in school and is in a business route, so he does finances now. And my mom was a teacher. She was a speech pathologist, so she worked with kids with special needs and that kind of stuff. But she was also a violinist in the symphony of where we lived in Michigan. So maybe that's where it came from. But now me and both of my sisters are all in the arts. Yeah. So I don't know what kind of combination there was of our upbringing, but it all pushed us in that direction.
Yeah, there's at least some musical connection there.
Right. Because my mom put us all on instruments when we were young. I used to play the violin.
Oh, okay.
I grew out of that pretty fast.
Did you not like it?
No, I couldn't stand it. I think it was because I had to sit still and be very disciplined. Yeah. And that was not who I was when I was that age. Yeah.
So with the ballet training, I imagine there's still a lot of discipline that goes on there, but was it easier for you to get a handle on because you actually got to move physically?
I think so. It's very exhausting, like class.
Yeah.
Usually it's an hour and a half. And so, at least for me, it's always easy for me to focus when I'm tired, because I don't feel like I need to do something or anything. I can just kind of sit.
Yeah.
That definitely was a big piece of it. I think why it clicked with me more than something like violin was because I got to expend all this energy. And then after all of that noise was gone, it was a lot easier just to focus in.
Yeah. Do you think you had any ADHD or anything like that as a kid?
No, I've thought about this, because now that I'm older, it's not the same. I just kind of burned it all out, I guess.
Yeah, this makes me wonder, because I feel like I dwell on this topic a lot in my mind, but
sure.
that there's diagnosis of like ADHD, ADD for kids.
Definitely.
And I wonder if like some kids who get diagnosed with ADHD and then they get, some sort of medication to take care of it, if they wouldn't have been better served by, like ballet classes or something
Yeah.
like active that they can take out all of their, hyperactive energy on.
Absolutely. And I'm thinking it helped me in school too.
Yeah.
Being able to get all that energy out all the time, every day. So, and I still feel like that now. I mean, talk about the COVID pandemic. There was like 2 months or something that I took off of dancing.
Yeah.
And I just remember like being in my kitchen, like every time I was around, I just felt like I had this well of energy that I'm not used to having. And this just reminded me, that's what it was like in school before I got super active with that stuff. Not in a bad way, but
Yeah.
I just, it's like more energy than I knew what to do with.
Yeah, I guess I probably experienced that as a kid. I feel like it's harder and harder for me to remember my childhood, but I think I was a pretty active kid as well.
Mm.
I was part of like sports. I did like baseball, soccer, football, basketball, and all that, and tennis.
Mhm.
But none of them I did like competitively. Really, it was all just the recreation, like Parks and Rec teams that you go on, just play against each other, and nobody was keeping score. Nobody was the winner of the season or anything.
Oh, sure.
So yeah, we had lessons or practices and games, and I don't know that I was active and I was always like biking around the neighborhood, but I don't know if I really ever enjoyed the sports, the like structure and the format of it. I preferred to be active in a way that was like more open-ended. Like I really liked snowboarding as a kid because I wasn't part of a team. I wasn't really trying to do a specific goal. I wasn't trying to beat anybody. I was
Sure.
just going down a hill for fun.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I remember I really hated soccer because it was often like in the spring or something, and it was really like it started when it was still like basically winter, so it was really cold and rainy,
Oh,
and
yeah.
we're just playing on these muddy fields, and I have to run back and forth
Mhm.
all the time, and it just seems so pointless and like miserable. But
Oh, man. It's an elevated mindset for a kid. You're like, what's the point?
Yeah.
I'm just pushing this ball around. I should be.
yeah, it made more sense to me to just engage in like skateboarding or like bicycling or something that was just. It didn't have that structure to it, but it was still an active thing to do.
Sure. That's an interesting point. It makes me think people like to talk about ballet like it's more of an art form. But in the years I've been doing it on the dancing side, not the choreography side, it feels a lot more like a sport, like an athlete. So I was talking to one of my friends about this the other day. A lot of companies will have like a second company, which are younger people, and it serves to train, and like it's a feeder for the main company, and they do a lot of community engagement stuff, and that's how they stay relevant in the community. So they do a lot of things with young kids, and they go to schools a lot. So I did this kind of a program last year and kind of destigmatize ballet or educate people about it and try to drum up some interest. So one of the things people ask is like, what do you love about ballet? Something like that. And people there's always someone who will be like, I love it because it allows me to like express my feelings or something.
Yeah.
I was talking to my friend about this the other day. It's like, I've never felt that ever in ballet, because for me, and not in a bad way, but it's more like I'm more of a tool, I guess, for the choreographer or the artistic director to kind of create his vision. So his emotions are poured into the work that he creates, and then it's our job to understand the emotions he's trying to convey and embody that.
Yeah.
So it's not really coming from you. It's
coming from them.
Like you can draw on your own personal experiences and stuff to embody that, but it's not like your original idea, if that makes sense. You're more of a conduit.
Yeah. That probably makes you a dancer that I'm sure choreographers and directors like, because you're not trying to take over their work or something like that. You're not trying to like usurp the idea and make it your own thing, like completely take over. Because this kind of reminds me of acting, like what you were just saying. And in high school, in my drama class, we had projects where we had to like direct plays, like one act plays, and we got into groups in our class, and we each like directed a play, and then we had a competition where we had a night of performances where everybody showed up to the theater, and then the audience voted on who was the best play. So I directed a few plays, and it was also always easier to work with actors who are open to the director's advice and their image of what they want the scene to be like,
Yeah.
rather than them trying to take over the scene and them trying to be the director.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you were saying, it's good for an actor or a dancer to put in some of their own ideas into it.
Yeah.
But I feel like, yeah, you've got to acknowledge that the main idea is coming from the director, and that's like
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
theme of it is from them. And if everybody is trying to be the director of the show is going to be chaotic.
Right. But the cool thing is that you're still, whether you're conscious about it or not, you're drawing on your own experiences.
Yeah.
So that's why if you have something like Romeo and Juliet, which is like a classic love tale, and ballets have done it for so long. No two Romeo and Juliet will have like the same chemistry between casts, because I guess love and like all the little touches and physical things that you do are very personal, like how you express it. But again, it's not like you're expressing your feelings of love. You're just trying to embody the prompts that you get from your director in the way that it means to you.
Yeah, I suppose I should maybe restate what I was saying, because I guess I'm not trying to say that directors are authoritarian dictators in their plays or their ballets or their musicals or whatever it is. Yeah, because each actor brings their own unique touches to it, and a lot of the time, I feel like as a director, you see an actor do something that you weren't expecting, and you're like, yes, that, keep on doing that thing.
Sure.
So it didn't even come from you, but you realize it was good and it came from that actor. So there's a certain balance or fine line to walk between where or the prompt or where the emotion or the story is coming from. Is it coming from the actors or the directors? And it should be coming from both in some measure, but there's like a ideal line there. And if it goes too far in one or the other direction, then you can have dancers or actors who can't express themselves at all, or who are overtaking the entire thing.
Sure. Yeah, it's a very interesting art form, and like acting and dancing and that. That's like that weird balance. I feel like it's not as common in other disciplines.
Yeah.
That kind of collaboration.
So you were saying that you were asking these dancers from the second company what they liked about ballet dancing. They said to express themselves.
Right.
And you haven't felt that?
Well, more so, every day we'll take a class or something, and that's like a huge part of what we do. Just like in terms of the sheer hours, a lot of it is spent in class. So when you're 4 years old, and you start for the first time or whatever, you'll do a class. And then when you're 35, the year of your retirement, you'll still be doing class. So it's like, and it's an essential part. But for me, the appeal and kind of what I like about it is it's less of an artistic expression, but it's the opposite. It's a time to almost shut down and go more like into a meditative state of focus. And that's how I like to approach my dancing, a lot more analytically. So if you think about doing a pirouette, you fall out of a pirouette, you can think about your opposite shoulder coming around in a way and how it realigns your body, and then the pirouette solve itself. And that's the satisfaction that I love from it. It's this kind of day-to-day thing where you're fine-tuning your technique, because every day will be different depending on, if you moved a couch up 6 flights of stairs and your back hurts a little this way, so you might be holding yourself differently than you did the day before. So it's kind of that self-analysis and critique that makes it interesting. But that's a double-edged sword. I guess this is
the self-critique?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because you have to train to be your own harshest critic. Yeah. Which I feel is true for a lot of artists. But in ballet, it's a huge obstacle to overcome. I think you kind of become your own worst enemy in a way.
Do you think, I guess in your experience, does most of the critique come from yourself and not from like a director or a choreographer?
It's pretty even. So when you start and you're young, it's going to be way more on your teacher's side, right? Because you don't really know what it should be. Yeah. And then I'd say by the time that you get close to being a professional, you know everything in terms of like, it should be this way or this way. Because you've been doing it for 20 years. So you know how it's supposed to look, and it's more just like making yourself do it. And so by that time, I'd say it's almost even. And then the further you get, the more it tips towards being all you. Because the older the dancer you become, generally speaking, the more the teachers will leave you alone. Yeah. Because they know you know.
Yeah, you know what you're doing.
Yeah. And so It's an interesting mind game. I
Yeah.
would say it's almost as physical as it is mental in terms of being a good dancer. And a lot of people don't figure that out.
Like requiring a lot of willpower or something
Yeah,
like that?
like mental fortitude.
Yeah.
To not spiral into like self-doubt
Yeah.
and kind of trash your mental image of yourself.
Yeah. Do you think, I mean, maybe this is a similar question, but do you think the harshness of critique follows that same trajectory, like compared to from yourself to your instructors? Do you think the instructors are being as harsh as you're being to yourself, or
Yeah,
do
for
you
sure.
think people are their harshest critic?
Oh, well, that's a good question. And I think it depends on the person.
Well,
a
yeah,
lot for
I guess,
that.
yeah, the instructor might be a asshole.
Yeah, most of them are. just to say, because their job is not to tell you what you're doing well.
Yeah.
There's very much of that mindset, and I've met a few teachers that value positive reinforcement more, but it's very few. You know, a lot of it is you'll rehearse for 6 weeks or something. So every day for 6 weeks, all you'll hear is what you do wrong every day.
Yeah.
And it's not until the show, if you do the show well, that you'll get that positive reinforcement, generally speaking, which is good. That's what makes it such a high level of performance.
Yeah.
But it can be very grating on yourself, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
So that's something I've been doing dance now for about 12 years, more or less. And that's something I'm still figuring out and finding my own balance with. And I think everyone does till the day they retire, is
Yeah.
kind of maintaining themselves.
Do you think a lot of dancers struggle with that to a point where it actually messes up their career or their dancing?
Absolutely. I wish I had a statistic on it, because it must be insanely high. But if you look about the amount of people who start to take dance when they're young, and then the percentage of those people that take it very seriously,
Yeah.
the amount that actually make it to a professional is very, very, very small.
So is it the likelihood that they're going to make it to the professional level, is that, do you think, mostly down to them like breaking down mentally and not being able to handle it, or is it more them just not being good enough, like physically?
Oh, sure. Well, that's a good point, because
Yeah.
that's a huge piece of it, and something I think is very unique to ballet, because ballet is something that is purely visual. You have the auditory music, and there's that element, but as an audience member watching,
Yeah.
the beautiful shapes and lines and everything, it's a visual art form. And there's these giant books of technique of like that have been hundreds of years old, of like, this is how everything should be. There's different styles, like there's like a French technique and Russian technique and all of this, but because of that, there's like a standard for how things look and how your body should look. But as we all know, like, people's bodies don't come standard.
Yeah.
Everyone's unique. And so it becomes this game of trying to get your body to become these ideals and make up for your shortcomings, I guess.
Yeah.
But there's only so much that's within your actual power to change, since obviously you can't change
you
how
can't
you
remake
look.
yourself
Right.
completely.
So for me, it's my feet. I don't have the best feet in the world of dancers in terms of how much it points and how much natural flexibility my ankle has.
So it should be pointier and should have more flexibility?
Yeah. So if you like have your leg like flat against the ground and you point it,
Yeah.
some people's toes will go like a couple inches off the ground, but some people's will just touch the ground. Like
Yeah.
they're naturally, like their arch and their ankle just has this flexibility where it can make a flat line. And
That's good?
That's attainable. That's what everyone wants.
Oh, okay.
Usually people call it like banana feet or something, because it's like makes like a full semicircle against
Yeah.
the ground. And so I don't have that. So when I was like 13, I think my teacher told me that like your feet, I don't know if I can swear on the podcast.
Oh, no, you just feel free,
Oh,
feel free to
cool.
swear. Yeah.
She's an old school Russian teacher, and I remember I was like 13 or whatever, fresh in Milwaukee. She's like, your feet will be your bitch your whole career, forever until you're 30. It's still gonna suck. It's
Yeah.
just gonna be your thing.
Huh. I mean, maybe this isn't a good idea to do, but it kind of makes me think of was it like geishas in China or whatever, who like bind their feet.
Oh yeah.
And then
Uh-huh.
they like completely physically distort them to fit into a certain mold. Is that something that ballet dancers do at all?
Dude, there's a whole world of crazy in ballet. So like for example, that same teacher that told me that there's rumors, and I'm not sure if this is true, if she actually did it, but other people have actually done it. People will break their feet
Oh yeah.
and get them remolded to be better.
Yeah.
So some people said like she dropped a piano on her foot and then got it like restructured to be better, whatever. So when I was young, I was pretty on the deep end when I was young, I guess, in terms of like my obsessiveness with ballet. So I used to like get really heavy boxes and like put them, like stack them on my feet to like
to hope
stretch
like,
it.
slowly
That
bend
they'll
it down.
slowly get more flexible. And then there's these foot stretchers, which have been like a big thing. It's like really strong elastic, and you kind of put your foot in it and like straighten your leg, and the elastic pushes down.
Yeah.
But luckily, there's been a lot of research lately with like physical therapy and stuff that says it actually doesn't help. It just makes it worse, the way that you stretch it. So at least in my experience and my like information tunnel of people I like see around me, that's becoming less and less of a thing. People are getting smarter about it now.
So is it becoming more of just a, I've got what I've got,
Yeah.
work with it, rather than try to change it?
There's been tons of reform in ballet, I think, or at least among the dancers, a movement to make it more healthy mentally.
Yeah.
And so that's one of those things that I've started to see change in terms of like people trying to like alter their bodies is becoming way less common.
Yeah.
But you still have a big problem with anorexia and like body dysmorphia and stuff. That is still very prevalent, for sure.
Yeah, I could see that, because when I think of ballet dancer, I mean, I think of somebody who's very skinny,
Right.
just like a model. Those two careers seem to almost require, in a typical sense, like the ideal that you see in magazines and all that, just extremely skinny people.
Yeah, and then I think it was a quote from Balanchine, and Balanchine is like the godfather of American ballet, is what we call him. And that's like, he has his own style. So New York City Ballet, which is one of our biggest companies, is Balanchine. It's a Balanchine company. He had a whole list of things that were like the ideal dancer. And I think one of the things he said was the dancer's skin should be the color of a freshly peeled apple. Something like that. So now you have a whole new level of like, racial discrimination. And that's a big problem too, that people are finally
freshly peeled
fixing.
apple.
Yeah, it's like pure white.
Yeah, such an odd description.
Yeah,
that's so. When was that he wrote those guidelines for?
Oh shit, Balanchine.
Is it a long time ago?
Not super long ago, but I would say he was. Oh man, if any ballet dancers are listening, I get this wrong. It's gonna be shameful. Probably, I would say like 1950s and 60s.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
that
not
area.
Super long ago.
Maybe a little bit later.
Yeah. So is there so you got some sort of racial discrimination going on with the guidelines of what a ballet dancer should be, at least according to him?
Yeah.
Do you also have any like height requirements in there?
Yeah, that's another thing. So companies will vary on what they look for.
Yeah.
So each one is different. For example, European companies prefer really tall dancers. So if you go on their website and you're looking at auditioning, they'll oftentimes have a bracket. It's like, well, if you want to be in our company, you have to be between 5'8" and 5'12" for men, or this range for women. And you'll just like, if you don't match that, they don't even look at you.
Yeah, just throw your application.
And part of that is due to like the height discrepancy between men and women. They need guys that are taller than the women so that they can partner them
and like lift them around.
Yeah.
And stuff.
So I mean, it makes sense, but some companies prefer like shorter people, or some will have taller people, and then some are really weird where they like really tall girls and stuff, and it kind of, those companies will build a reputation among the ballet world.
Yeah.
Or they'll be like, oh, you should go audition here because they like people of your body type or whatever.
Is there like a disparity in how many like men or women are involved in ballet, or is it like pretty evenly split?
Most companies will have an even number of men and women, but if you look at how many people are involved in ballet when they're younger, it's very heavily geared towards female. There's a lot
Right.
more women in ballet than there are men.
Does that mean, because if you think about it, if you've got a larger pool of girls starting off at young ages in ballet, and then
Mhm.
when you get to the professional level, you've got an even split, does that mean that it's more difficult for a woman to get into ballet?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's why the crazy ballet dancer stereotype is always female,
Yeah.
because the competitive level
Black
is
Swan
so much
emoji.
higher. Yeah, exactly. It breeds very quickly a toxic environment. It can get bad pretty fast due to that high level of competitiveness. But it's still just as, well, not just as, but it's incredibly competitive for guys too.
Yeah.
But it's almost unimaginably competitive for women.
Right. So with that critique coming from your choreographer, coming from yourself, is there also like inter-dancer critique too? Do you have people that are on the same level as you giving you critique, or does that not happen?
That's a thing. Some people will do that, and
Yeah.
those people are usually the one everyone hates.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
they'll just
'cause-
like start telling you stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
You're like, just leave me alone. I'll ask you if I want you to help me.
Yeah.
Just, get out of here.
Does that happen a lot, like with the hyper competitiveness? Like you've got if it's like a bunch of girls trying to get into professional ballet, are they like tearing each other down, trying to get each other to quit?
Oh,
of
there's a whole wealth of like horror stories
Yeah.
from like auditions and stuff where girls will like cut other people's leotards in their
Oh,
bags or
yeah.
something so they don't have anything to wear, or like people putting glass in other people's point shoes.
Oh.
That's like a crazy thing.
Yeah.
I've
I feel like
never
that should
heard
get
it
you
happen,
banned
actually,
from ballet if that
Oh,
happens. But
there's so much stuff that should get you banned that doesn't. But yeah, another like a weird thing I guess in ballet culture is, so you take the first part of class is at the bar. You basically are holding on to a
Yeah.
support, and it helps you get grounded and find your balance. And so bar spots are a very personal thing. So in the studio, everyone almost always will stand at the same spot every
Yeah.
day. So if someone takes your bar spot, it's
Oh.
like a whole thing, and there's a hierarchy, right? So especially if you're a newer dancer and you take a senior dancer's bar spot, either you're gonna get yelled at, or they're gonna like throw your bag across the room,
yeah.
or no one will say anything, and now everyone just hates you. That's also usually what happens.
Yeah, like a passive aggressiveness. that
Yeah,
you
I've
feel.
had it to the extent once when I was in Texas. I was standing I was taking company class, and even though I was a trainee, so I was like a guest, I guess, in
Oh,
in
okay.
the class. So I was with the higher level. So you try to be very respectful, like you let everyone take their spot, and then you go take your spot or
Yeah.
whatever, and you always stand at the back, that kind of thing. So after bar was done, I had to have my bag at bar, which most people did. There was usually you don't bring your bags into the studio, but for that day, I forgot what was going on, but most people had their stuff with them. So I finished class and I go to the side and I put my bag down, and some senior dancer comes. She's like, "That's where I put my bag." And I'm like, "Excuse me, what?" She's like, "That's my bag's spot. So move your stuff." And so I guess I moved it like a foot to the left so she could put her bag in that specific spot. Just stuff like that. I'm like, come on, what?
What is it about the ballet culture that makes that happen? Like, why do people care about having a square foot of space that belongs to them?
I think it's comes down to how we judge ourselves and how we feel good about ourselves. So I think for me, you'll almost never feel like the person at the front of the room thinks you're good, right? So I think that's different when you're older maybe and you've been with the company for 20 years and there's more of
Okay.
a trust. But just due to like the constant feedback, you're not gonna feel good about yourself like every day. So I think where most people's self-worth comes from is the competitive level, where their self-worth comes from watching other people, and like if they mess up something but you do it right, that's how you feel good about yourself, because no one else is giving you like positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
So I think the seniority comes from that level of like, I've put in this work, I'm at this level, so know your place.
Right. Yeah. It's
You
just
kind
a
of
sort
make
of
yourself
a way to assert dominance.
yeah, for sure.
So with the sense of like self-worth in your dancing, that coming from watching other dancers, does any of it also come from like audience appreciation? Like, if you are dancing and you get a standing ovation, does that make you personally feel like some sort of validation as a dancer?
I think it's pretty bad because at least for I do or most of the people I know, it's more like the audience is really stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
It's
like
like they don't know.
they're expected to clap, so
Right.
you don't really know if they're or also you don't know if they're doing it for you, and yeah, the audience can't tell your mistakes that you know happened.
Right. And
Yeah.
so teachers will talk about it a lot. They won't know. They don't know what a good pirouette is or what the perfect arabesque is. They'll be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, the costumes are so pretty, or her hands are pretty, or whatever."
Yeah.
So they'll clap for pretty much anything. And so it's like because you'll always know though like
Yeah.
what was wrong in that show or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it kind of loses meaning.
Yeah.
It feels good. Don't get me wrong. Like at the end of the show and the curtain goes up and everyone's clapping for you like that. It feels good, but it's like it's harder to understand like their perception of you doesn't really mean anything
Right.
because they don't know as much.
Yeah. In ballet, because I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever really been to a ballet. I'm sure I've seen plenty of ballet in my life, but I don't think I've like gone to the ballet.
Mhm.
Seen like, video and stuff.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of times where you get like a solo so you can tell that if the audience is clapping, it's specifically about you and not about the
Yeah.
whole ensemble?
Definitely. So, an example in the Nutcracker, you'll have the Sugar Plum. So, that's like the lead girl, and then there's like the Cavalier or whatever, who's the lead guy. So, a typical ballet structure, they'll come out together and they'll do a pas de deux, which is like a two-person dance. And that's when they're partnering or whatever,
Yeah.
and they do all the lifts and that's kind of stuff. And then usually what happens is the woman will leave the stage and then the male will do a solo, and then the man will leave the stage and the woman will do a solo, and then they both come back out and will do a coda, which is like a finishing piece.
Yeah.
And in that instance, usually like the audience will like clap after everything.
Oh, okay.
And then when you do those higher rolls, when people come out to do like a big bow at the end, usually they'll do it in kind of like a hierarchical
Right.
way.
Yeah. Like the
So you have like the core comes out, and then like maybe some other people that did solos will have like their moment,
yeah.
and then like the principals will come out and have a big moment. And sometimes people will bring them flowers or whatever, and
Yeah.
then they bring out the artistic director sometimes, or the conductor of the orchestra, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I forgot about the curtain call because that happens in acting too,
Mhm.
and that is, I guess, a good way to know that if the audience likes you more than somebody else.
Right. But it is important, and I feel like due to that culture of feeling like the audience doesn't really know,
Yeah.
people sometimes lose sight that that's the end picture, right? The only reason that we can be
Yeah.
on stage is if they like it.
Yeah. So I guess, I mean, if you think about it in that kind of way, you don't really have to achieve perfection because the audience doesn't know the difference between an 8 out of 10 pirouette or a 10 out of 10 pirouette. They look the same to the layman.
Right, but the reason I think that competitive edge is still there is because your director knows
Yeah.
exactly what it's supposed to be.
And then for like what casting in the next performance, then
yeah,
they
and
take
your-
that into consideration.
and your job security.
Yeah.
So the way that it works in ballet is you sign a contract every season, and there's nothing that will keep you for next season.
Oh yeah,
and
that
that's-
sounds stressful.
Oh, tell me about it. So it's a pretty American thing because we're like very competitive
Yeah.
here. And so we're owned, like ballet companies are private. And so there's constant competition for those spots. And then we'll have revenue from tickets that support us. And if you have their school, you'll have school income that supports us. But also a big piece of it comes from donors.
Oh, yeah.
So we have a large list of donors who will support the ballet. And then each dancer has a specific person that sponsors them. So
Oh,
you'll
really?
go get lunch with them or write them letters, that kind of thing.
Is there a limit? Like, can you only have one person sponsor you?
At least for our company, that's how it works.
Oh, okay. That's
And
interesting.
so, and then if in the second company, if there's international people, so we get a lot of people from Japan, all of the Japanese students will have a particular sponsor that helps them get visas, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Is that something that's a hard process to like find a sponsor? Do you have to do that yourself?
They usually do it for you.
Oh, okay.
So I'm brand new to the company this year, so I don't have one yet.
Oh, okay.
So as like interest arises, I'll be like assigned one if someone wants to.
Yeah.
That's kind of thing.
So then having a sponsor, that seems like that'd be something that's good for your job security. Like, do they still not sign you up for next season if you do have a sponsor who loves you and is paying lots of
Yeah,
money?
it doesn't really matter. Yeah,
Wow.
it's like the interesting piece because it's really not up to them.
Yeah.
And it's all up to one person, really. It's the artistic director. It's almost like
Of like the whole company?
yeah, he has absolute power over everybody in the entire building. It's from costumes to the dancers, everybody. And so that's part of the stress culture that comes out of ballet is there's no one that really does the day-to-day.
Yeah.
Like, you'll have ballet masters and stuff, but it's like, say your artistic director walks by class, sees you for like 3 seconds, like your whole future could be those 3 seconds because that's his whole opinion of you and your whole job hinges on that opinion.
Wow.
So that's probably the worst part is always trying to think what they think of you.
Yeah.
I
Do you
hate
come into contact with the artistic director a lot?
Nowadays, I do in the company, but
Yeah.
when I was in the second company, it was very minimal, and so those were like so stressful moments
Yeah.
trying to like. I think that he taught class once the entire year, so that one class you could
Everybody
cut the
was-
tension
yeah.
with a knife in that room, because everyone was just trying to get a contract. So
Yeah, that's like a interview or audition where you have to do it with a whole bunch of people. That I don't know, it probably makes it more stressful than doing an interview or audition just by yourself.
yeah, and then that's what makes shows stressful too, because at least for me, that's like what most people. That's all they care about who's watching.
Yeah.
Like usually we'll have like 12 to 1500 people watching us, but it's way less stressful than like that one person because that's really all that matters at the end of the day.
Wow. Is that just an American thing, the artistic director having absolute control?
So an interesting thing about European companies is that the state or that the country will usually sponsor the ballet. It's a government owned entity, so then
Yeah.
technically all the dancers are government employees.
Oh.
And it's interesting because I guess European culture values arts more
Yeah.
than American cultures, I'd say. And so usually they'll own like the opera house or the state theater, and then you'll have like the ballet companies attached to those theaters, and then they get like usually year contracts. Some places will give lifelong contracts. Like we work seasonally, so
Yeah, what's a season? How long is that for
so
ballet?
our season this year is weird because of COVID. So
Yeah.
we're going November to June or something. And
Okay.
then we're like on layoff or like furlough for those months before
Yeah.
it starts back. Usually people would go like September to May.
Oh, okay. That's still pretty long
Yeah.
for a season.
And then it's super standard for American ballet dancers to file for unemployment in those few months off.
Yeah.
Or people do other jobs or like find other things to do, which is really strange to like European companies that get paid all 12 months, even though they're not
Yeah.
performing all 12 months.
It's kind of like a teacher's experience, I guess.
Yeah.
September to basically May. And then
Yeah.
the summer months, you have to get a second job or something like that.
Yeah. And so like now I'm in an interesting place because I never really wanted to do it like that with the unemployment.
Yeah.
Because I kind of don't want to just like lay over and be like, government, help me,
Yeah.
every year. And so I worked this summer and I quit my job, I guess, to go back work at the ballet when we started.
Yeah.
But now because I did that, I won't be able to file unemployment for like 2 years or whatever it is, even if I want to. They have these qualifiers. So basically, if you're able to work and then just don't,
Yeah.
then you can't get money. So it's a whole thing within the ballet of people like quitting jobs. People don't do it.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you make that choice, you either have to keep working, or figure something else out.
Wait 2 years.
Or
Yeah.
wait 2 years, yeah.
Wow.
So this summer was super interesting. A lot of people got screwed and disqualified from unemployment over little technicalities in their forms and stuff.
Yeah.
So some people just budget really smartly through the year, and they save up enough each paycheck so that they can just live off of that this summer.
Right. Does, I don't know, the average ballet job pay decent, like pay pretty well, or?
It pays well compared to like a normal
Yeah.
no experience required.
Yeah, like entry level job. Yeah.
And so our company is unionized through a big union that covers ballet companies and I think some actors and symphonies. It's called the American Guild of Musical Artists, or AGMA. And so AGMA is basically negotiated dancer pay rates
Oh,
for each year with like a 2% increase or whatever. So I know, for example, if I leave the company I'm at now, any other company I go to that's Agma will have the same pay rate.
Yeah.
So
Is that most companies, do you think, are part of that union?
A lot of the big ones are. And part of it is because of the toxic culture that it breeds due to the competitiveness. People unionize so that they had more protection from their directors and that kind of stuff.
Do you think talking about the toxic culture of ballet is something that would get you in trouble? Or is this something that all the ballet dancers just acknowledge?
I think it's common knowledge.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way you can be in the world and ignore all the problems from the competitive level and like the body dysmorphia and like all that. It stares you in the face every day. Everyone knows it.
From your experience, like what percentage of people that are in ballet struggle with the body dysmorphia or like anorexia or things like that?
I don't know. And then
More than half?
I would say less than that, but the thing is, I don't know people's mental states. What's going on, so really, I only know if it's like obvious, like if you can like see it on a person. But
that's
I'm
not
sure
really
there's
something people talk about, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's so many people I don't know who like stare at themselves in the mirror all day and or throw up or that kind of thing, and it's really sad. And because it's so common, it's not something that people get help with in the ballet world. If that makes sense. Like teachers, even if they know, maybe some don't even see it as a problem.
Yeah, just part of the job.
I've heard people say that they've had teachers encourage them, even like, I'll show you how to make yourself throw up so that you can get skinnier, that kind of thing. Not to put a bad label on all of ballet. Right. It's just that kind of thing where the few bad eggs give like a bad reputation. Yeah. There's plenty of great teachers and great dancers, but I guess it's there, and it's something that we need to address and really focus on.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's like what you do kind of all day, stare at yourself in the mirror, judging your own expertise and comparing yourself to other people.
Yeah, it's takes a certain mental state to make it work.
So do you have any ideas of, I don't know, maybe other ballet companies across the world are doing different things, or like how would you improve the ballet culture to make it less debilitating for people's mental states?
I think one of the first thing that has to happen, well, for mental states, well, maybe just in general. So something that's been going on lately is people are finally talking about like the crazy things that have happened to them. I think there was someone from, I don't remember her name. She was Boston Ballet principal or whatever, or soloist. She was there for one season and then quit, and basically made a whole thing about it on social media and like revealed everything that had happened to her. And like, cause she had a fine body. She was like completely normal for the average person, like fit for the average person. But for ballet, I guess a lot of teachers said that she was like overweight and she talked about everything that had happened and kind of like called it out. And that started a big movement where everyone in the dance world started sharing their own experiences. And I think there needs to be a lot more of that stuff. Yeah. There's so many untold stories of that kind of those injustices or like horrible moments. And I think as soon as people really get it out in the light and everyone acknowledges that you'll be held accountable for the things that you do to your coworkers or students or whatever, I think that's when we'll start seeing some change. There was a big thing 2 years ago. I don't know if you heard about it with Alexandra Waterbury. I think I got that name right. And the New York City Ballet. Okay. So I might get this story wrong. I don't remember all the details.
Yeah. Is the New York City Ballet like the biggest in the country?
They're probably one of the most famous in America. So that was Balanchine's company, like the Godfather I talked about. Yeah. That's what he started. And so it's got, it's super famous. It's also famous in the dance world for being probably the most toxic environment out of all the American companies. But basically what happened to her, and again, apologies if I get this wrong, I might not have all the details right. Something like she was dating somebody in the company that was older, and he had sexually explicit pictures, which I guess is pretty standard if you're in a couple, you have some saucy photos or whatever. But he started showing them to donors and other administrative people, and it was this whole thing. And so she was younger in the company and like really trying to get a job, and so I think they broke up, and maybe that's what happened. That's part of it or something like that. So she didn't talk about it for a long time until she finally quit and then blew the whole thing up. And lots of people got fired. I think the artistic director stepped down
Yeah.
because of that.
She like knew about it the whole time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She basically just unveiled the whole thing. I
Yeah.
think she quit dancing or quit dancing professionally. But it was awesome. I mean, it takes so much like strength to do that in that world, because there's so many like little things, I guess, that happen every day. That was a pretty big one.
Yeah.
But it's just not something you talk about. You just accept it as part of the culture, I guess. And so that was huge, I think. And she actually made some change, I think,
Yeah.
in terms of starting to make people accountable for what they do.
Do you think there's a like noticeable difference when you get to the professional level in like the toxicity of the culture? Because from both of those things you talked about with the Boston and the New York City one, it seems like these people got to the professional level and then quit, but then like something awful happened that made them quit and call out the whole career path, call out the ballet culture. So like, were these things not happening to such a degree when they were younger, and then all of a sudden the level of horribleness rose when they got to the professional culture that they had to actually finally say something about it?
I would actually say it's worse when you're younger.
So it's just like this slow buildup of all this like stuff
Well,
that's been happening to you that you finally.
it's more people want jobs so badly when they're younger. So like in the second company program, which I did last year, you're already whittled down to 20 out of like who knows how many hundreds of people that were trying to get in. And then out of that group of you, 20 or so, there maybe will be one spot, maybe, if someone decides to retire or something. So it's a complete shot in the dark. So a lot of these things happen, and that's probably the worst environment, I would say, in ballet, are those moments when you're like right out of high school trying to get jobs, because the competitiveness and self-image and stuff, that's like at its peak, and no one's gonna say anything when stuff happens at that level because they want a job so badly and they need jobs. And it's not until people are older, I think, and get more work experience and like life experience, where they're like, oh, this stuff is not okay and this doesn't happen in other fields.
That's a good point.
Where they finally decide like they can talk about it.
Yeah. So were you the one of 20 people in the second company that got the spot?
I actually got incredibly lucky to be where I was last year, because we had 3 spots open up, which is insane, because that almost never happens.
3 people retired?
Well, what happened was one person retired. Actually, 2 people retired, but they had in the previous year, I think just through people retiring or changing companies or whatever, they had a bunch of spots open up and they took on like 6 new people, which is crazy for a company of 20. That's huge. And then they were still trialing out all these new people, because every single one of them was not from within their school. That were just people that they hired in. And so out of all of those people, 3 of them weren't like renewed. And so there were these like wealth of spots that it's super uncommon. So I really just happened to be in the right place at the right time. To make that happen.
And the ballet just started up again recently, right?
Yeah, we were out for like 7 months or something, 6 months.
When did you get signed on for that?
Like yesterday.
Oh, okay. Was that like in doubt or something you were wondering if it would actually happen or not?
I signed like a letter of agreement at the end of last year.
Yeah.
Saying that they wanted to hire me in.
Okay. So like a promise.
But I didn't get my actual contract until like just now.
Okay, that's good. So with all this I don't know, like mental hardship and like the fortitude that it takes and the environment of hyper competitiveness, what do you do like personally to overcome that?
I cook. I do other things.
Yeah.
that help me take my mind off of it.
Don't focus all your time every day on ballet.
Yeah, I think it's super important. So people, they do this since you're 4 or whatever.
Yeah.
So it kind of becomes your whole world.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to like broaden your world, and so it helps put things in perspective, right?
Yeah.
So we're not doing open heart surgery, right? So it's like there's no lives at stake or whatever. It's your own personal performance, but it really does feel like your whole life in those moments. So I think the more you like broaden your horizons, the easier it is to cope with all the day-to-day stuff.
Yeah.
which leads me to something else I wanted to talk about, which is the role of arts in our society. Speaking of like, because ballet is pretty self-serving. I think dance is self-serving in terms of its impact on society and like what you get out of it. It's more like your own personal experiences that are really special and fun.
Right. So in that kind of way, do you think most dancers do it for their own enjoyment rather than doing it as like to make other people happy?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that like 100%.
Oh.
I think there's some people on the administrative side that have more of a view that's like how dance can be used to positively affect others. But due to how competitive it is, or like how hard it is to survive as a company, a lot of it is just trying to stay open, survive. Like the Nutcracker is not gonna change anybody's life. The reason we do it is because you get like $2 million every time we put on the show, and that's literally what keeps our doors open.
Right. But presumably, like people show up to it and buy tickets to go see it because it's a fun thing to do. It makes them happy. Or something.
Right. And so the way I look at arts is I think that arts, what the purpose that they serve is an escape.
Yeah.
For the average Joe, I guess, from the stresses of work and life. You can just go and focus on something else that's fun. It can be you go with your family usually, and that's what it serves. Same with music. It's like you put it on and you just zone out. And you're not thinking about your taxes or politics or whatever.
Yeah.
And then like for the dancers, it gets hard because now most people's escape becomes your whole world. So it's like, where do you go to escape?
Yeah.
Whatever. So
how do you think about arts that are built or made with like the real world in mind, such as like maybe critiques of society or something? If you make a song and the lyrics are all about the problems that we face, is that still an escape? Because then it's kind of like the song itself that you're trying to zone out to is reminding you of societal issues.
That's a good point. And I think a very small percentage of people are able to like harness their arts for change. Like, I don't know if you listen to Run the Jewels.
Oh, yeah.
Their last album, I think, is all like politically driven and like socially driven. And there's a lot of people. Anderson .Paak just had that song. It came out about quarantine and the pandemic and lockdown and like the Black Lives Matter movement. And that's really cool to see people using it like that.
Yeah.
Dance, I don't feel like usually becomes that kind of a force to make people think. There's some, and I will say we've definitely done things where the whole performance, like we did something a couple of years ago where the piece was about self-image, and it really made you think as a time of reflection. But you have to be very calculated with the risks that you take and how it will be received by the audience, because every year is a struggle to survive.
Some people are showing up expecting escapism and they get confronted with something they have to think about that's challenging.
Yeah, or on the opposite side where you get too experimental and you show up and there's people with like turtlenecks over their heads and they're like rolling around on the floor with foam rollers. People just walk out. It's like, what the heck is this?
Do you is interpretive dance something that's at all in the same world as ballet? Or are those like entirely different?
I don't really know much about interpretive dance.
Yeah, you've never done it yourself in any way? Okay.
I've made fun of it before, but maybe I don't really know. I don't really know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I just wonder if like the same skills are involved. Maybe not. Yeah, interpretive dance, I don't know. Maybe too wild. It can be so many different things that it's not like the same type of discipline involved as ballet. I feel like maybe different aspects or different categories of like the arts lean more towards being about like political things. Like I feel like music, compared to like you were saying dance, probably more likely to be something about like a critique of the world. And maybe like movies the same way, because you go see a lot of movies and it's like trying to make you think about some sort of aspect of society.
Right.
There's also a lot of movies that are just simple escapism. And then I feel like most video games too are more just about escapism and pleasure rather than making you think.
Yeah. And I think when people are able to start using it as a tool for like changes in society to like really make a statement, I'll say as a qualifying statement. And most of the times it's when people have the security to do so.
Yeah.
Like they've been established as an artist, so now they can start experimenting more or whatever because they have like a solid base. Although I will say there are artists, like especially I think of musical artists a lot, where the whole reason that they became popular was because they started from day one because they had something to say,
Yeah.
right? They have a statement. So I see that side too.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of rappers start out that way. There's a statement that they need to make, and then they become successful.
Yeah.
And then like it's kind of like the reverse trend. Somehow their career becomes like in the beginning years they're talking about like real problems,
Uh-huh.
and then towards the end they're just rapping about how rich they are.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of lost your message somewhere along the way.
Yeah, the arts are a weird thing, in terms of their like relevance to society and that we make money off of doing something that's not really an essential function.
Yeah.
If you think about it from that perspective, I always thought that was kind of strange. Like I'm sitting in this apartment, and I'm like, my dancing like paid for all of this, which is such a strange thing to think about.
Well, I mean, I don't know though. If you break it down just to necessary parts of society, then I don't know. Like, is life even as enjoyable, or maybe even worth living at all at that point, if people don't get paid for things that make other people just happy instead of making other people survive? Because then you wouldn't. I don't know. What would you do with your free time? Nobody's making any video games. Nobody's making any music.
It's true.
Nobody's bothering to do anything that isn't essential.
That's very true. And I guess that's where I think arts become kind of a proclamation of like how far humans have come as a species.
Yeah.
It's like we've now evolved beyond the fact where we just need to survive. And so what the arts are is that embodiment of culture and joy and the other things of life that
Yeah.
we can enjoy now because we've reached this point.
Yeah, I guess culture itself is just kind of unnecessary.
Yeah. But it's cool. I mean, it's very human. And,
Yeah.
I don't know anything about dog culture. I don't think dogs have culture. You
Yeah.
know? It's something that we do.
They don't have the, I guess, luxury of not having to worry about their survival. I guess
Right.
pets do, but then they're too separated. They can't come together and make a cohesive American dog culture or something like that.
Right. Oh man. Maybe to do a complete 180. We've been talking about arts and ballet for a while. Why don't we talk about the election?
Oh yeah.
It's I think it's been something on everyone's mind for a while. We just got the results, I guess. When we're
Yeah.
filming this, we got it yesterday.
Yeah. Was it yesterday?
I think so, right? Or was it 2 days ago?
No, yeah, I think you were right. It was yesterday. Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge,
What did
huge.
you think of the results?
I was a little bit behind, actually. I was sitting at
So
my
it was Trump.
kitchen table.
He was golfing.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Apparently, like while they were announcing on the news, they're like, "Oh, Trump is golfing right now. We're not going to interrupt him. We're just going to wait until he's done and then tell him."
That's so funny. Oh, man. But yeah, I was just like having breakfast, sipping my coffee, and I was like, oh, it's been a while since I checked the poll results. And I was like, oh, it looks a bit different. I was like, oh my God, hell, he won. It's nuts.
Yeah.
I think my sister was on the phone with my mom, and none of us knew. And I was like, Biden won. And she's like, what? She's like, Biden won. She's like, through the phone. Yeah, my girlfriend had a cool story about how when she found out, so she lives in New York City, which has been going crazy, the last few days over the election.
Yeah.
And so she was on the subway. So when it happened, she didn't have cell phone service. And she happened to be she was changing trains at Union Station. So biggest, like everyone was there. So she comes up the stairs. She said, people are going crazy. Everyone's cheering and shouting. She's like, what the heck is going on? She checked her phone. She's like, oh, no way. And
It's bombarded by it. Yeah.
what she's been doing is she has an old film camera from her dad. So she's been like documenting pictures. So she said she got some really cool pictures of Union Square at the exact moment
People found out.
people found out that Biden won.
That's
So-
cool. That's like a historic image.
Exactly. I'm really really excited to see those photos. It reminds me of like the sailor kissing the random person on the street after the war was over.
Yeah.
It's got the same energy to me. It's one of those
Yeah.
really cool moments that we can look back on, and it's like
Like
pictures
you
says
feel the
1,000
excitement
words.
through the picture. Yeah.
That would be cool to see. But where were you? Where were you when the news came out?
Oh, I was just watching a YouTube video, and one of the things that YouTube really wanted me to watch was like ABC News, them talking about how Biden won. And I had been checking like the electoral map,
Yeah.
like updating it from Associated Press, like over and over the past few days before that. And, like every like maybe 30 minutes or so, I was like, come on, Nevada, like hurry up.
Hurry up.
um, and so then I don't know. I just like didn't check it for a few hours, and I would have expected to find out from my constant checking, but it just kind of sprung on me from trying to watch a YouTube video.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool, and I wasn't expecting Pennsylvania of all states to be the one that announced it.
And then Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia
flipped in the end.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that at all. That was big. I've had some friends in Georgia, and they say it's been absolute lunacy over there.
Yeah, for Georgia, they have runoff elections for both senators that are coming up in on January 5th. So right now, I think the Republicans have control of the Senate, and then it just, I guess, entirely depends on what happens in Georgia. But
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be. I'm expecting it to be pretty gridlocked for
Yeah.
his presidency due to
Yeah.
the Senate. But
yeah, I'm sure
maybe that's.
Senate elections in Georgia will probably go Republican.
I think that might be a good thing, in the sense, I think people will be happy with 4 years of calm
Oh yeah,
compared to most things compared to last year will feel like 4 years of calm, but due to the social environment with the Black Lives Matter movement
yeah,
and all of this anxiety from the pandemic and everything, I think having someone in the office that is less dividing and
Right.
less controversial is going to be what everyone needs. I think everyone just wants to be able to exhale.
yeah,
Finally.
yeah. To be able to forget politics for a little while.
Yeah. So say what you will about Joe, but I feel like that's what he's going to give us.
Yeah.
is An exhale.
Yeah, although I have been listening to various doctors and scientific experts, and a lot of them are predicting that coronavirus will be our reality for the next 1 to 2 years.
Oh, really?
So, while we might have some sort of political stability, I still think it'll be turbulent, no matter what. Still wearing masks, still basically living as we live right now, but until 2021
Gotcha.
or 2022.
Sure. I don't know. The thing about Trump that got me going this past year was actually my first time getting very politically active
Yeah.
in a long time. And I also live in an interesting bubble, being a ballet dancer, where it's just everyone is so democratic. There's
Yeah.
no
Liberal
other
bubble, yeah.
Yeah, and I live in the city, so it's just my whole reality has been very liberal. It was very concerning, especially during all the debates and stuff. The way that things were becoming so divided between the red states and blue states.
Yeah.
And so many times he talked about New York, and he's look at it, look at the mess of the city that is, or whatever. I'm you're their president too.
Yeah.
That's not how it's supposed to be. And coming out of all of I feel racial tensions are super high, and everyone is more divided than ever now. And so I'm glad that we've got someone in there who seems like that's a big thing on his mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the division is, partially due to the personality of the president and of what's going on socially with the American people, I guess. But at the same time, I feel like a fraction of it is just inherent and due to the Electoral College, because as a Republican president, you probably are drawn towards the idea of thinking of California and New York as not states that you even have to should spend any of your effort on,
Right.
because every single time they're going to be Democratic.
Right.
And then if you're a Democratic president, you probably know that Kentucky is going to go Republican. So
Uh-huh.
why, with our current system, would you put any effort into caring about Kentucky when they're never going to vote for you?
Yeah, exactly. And I think taking it a step further from it just being the Electoral College, I think the whole two-party system
Yeah,
is flawed. And I know everyone loves to say that, but it's so true,
It is
and
flawed, yeah.
no one wants to change it. And so Germany, for example, I lived there for a while. They also have a party system, but I forget, there's more. There's 4 or 5, and they're way more evenly powerful.
Yeah.
And so
Is it more like a proportional system where you give political parties power in proportion to how many people voted for them, rather than, because I think that's the majority of the problem, is how we have first past the post voting. So just whoever gets whoever gets the plurality of the votes, whoever gets more votes than everybody else, they get all of the it's winner take all. They get all of the votes.
right.
It's if you got Senate races throughout all of the states, you're going to get basically 2 parties for the senators because in each state you're running like maybe Democrat, Republican, and then you've got your like independent parties or whatever, and they're getting like 1% of the vote, so it doesn't matter. And how you would do it as a proportional system is if a independent party gets 1% of the vote, then they get 1% of the power. So like of all of the House seats, they would have 1% of them. Or, you know, if the percentage of the people voting, that's where you allocate all the seats, instead of you have to get like the most, and then you just see, oh, you know, the Democrats got the most in this state, so they get all the.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that would make a difference. Absolutely.
Yeah, another voting issue and thing I think actually Nebraska and Maine are doing it kind of that way, more proportional with their electoral votes. Is like they've got, I think, congressional districts or something. Maine is split up into like 4 districts or 5 districts. And then within each district, they each have like one electoral vote. So if that district votes Democratic, then, you know, Joe Biden gets one of Maine's electoral votes. And then the other ones are split up individually. So rather than you, as a candidate, winning an entire state, you win a chunk of that state, which I think is a slight improvement.
Yeah.
And if you do things that way with also the House of Representatives and with the Senate, then I think you would have a more accurate Senate that's reflecting what the people actually look like. Because you got a decent chunk of people who would like to vote Libertarian but can't because they know they're throwing their vote away.
Exactly. For me, it trickles down. So you have to like look at the 2 presidential candidates, right? So you'll have to choose one from like your 2 options that you get. But then when it comes down to like state and local elections, the president doesn't have any power unless they're backed, you know, by their state and local officials. So at least for me, lots of the times, I don't even look at these people because I'm just like, well, yeah, it's going to be gridlock if they're not.
You're just going to vote all the way down the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like on my last ballot, I almost had only one choice for like nearly every single category, which was strange.
Yeah.
It just felt wrong, you know, as like in terms of my freedom. I don't know, whatever.
I was thinking about how like a state could vote for a presidential candidate for a certain party, but then vote for the opposite party for a senator or for a congressman. I was like, how does that make any sense? And then I came to the conclusion that it seems like it's complete evidence of Republicans or conservatives who are anti-Trump. So you've got conservatives who, you know, are still conservatives, but they realize that Trump is bad for the conservative, like for Republican Party in the end, even though he's the face of it right now or was.
Sure.
It's still damaging it. Trump is damaging, and he's damaging Democrats, in my opinion, too. He's making both sides worse.
Yeah.
So then you've got conservatives that realize this and think that, you know, even having a Democratic president for 4 years, that's better than Trump. So they vote against Trump. But they're still Republicans, so every other thing on the ballot, they'll vote for Republicans. So that's probably how you get in southern states Joe Biden winning the state, but a Democratic senator not winning that state. Because you don't have people consistently voting down the whole thing.
Sure.
Yeah, because they do want the gridlock. That's exactly what they want. They want not a crazy person as the president, but they want the Democratic person to be as restricted as possible.
Right. It's so crazy how that works.
So I mean, in a way, it's this election is probably the biggest win for those anti-Trump conservatives.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Here's an interesting thought. I was talking to someone in the Valley the other day, and he's from Macedonia, and he's been here for a while, so he's a very interesting view of American politics since he's been here. But he was talking to us the other day, and he's like, well, I think it would be better if instead of having people run together as an election, like your president and vice president, if your vice president was the runner-up. Which is so funny to think about.
That's how they used to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they don't do it like that anymore. But could you imagine Joe Biden with Trump as his vice president right now? The White House would be in flames. Like, that would just be absolute nut house. But it makes you think about how it starts to change the way that people are divided politically.
Right. It would kind of force people to have to work together in some way.
Exactly. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like everyone's still like one American people.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, in 2016, you would have had Trump as president and Hillary Clinton as vice president.
Those combos are just...
And then, I guess during your whole campaign, if it worked that way, again, you couldn't... Well, you could, I guess, but it'd be weird to run a smear campaign and call Hillary, crooked Hillary, because then
Because then, yeah,
you're
you
gonna have to work with her either way.
for like 4 or 8 years. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's an interesting thought.
yeah.
Um,
Although I guess in that sense, it would be a little bit weird in the way that when you get to the like primary elections, you've got just one contestant candidate on either side. At that point, then you know for sure who's going to be in charge of the country. You just don't know which one's going to have the more important position.
Oh, sure.
Because you would know, oh, one's going to be vice president, the other's going to be president. And I don't know, that might change the dynamic. And make it a little bit
I guess you would have to
weird.
have more candidates.
Yeah, it might make it seem
in
kind
that
of like
scenario.
almost, I could see in that situation, voter turnout being even lower because I think there'd be even more of a sense of, it doesn't really matter because they're both going to be in these positions no matter what. Just one's going to be there, one's going to be there.
Right.
So yeah, I think somehow having more candidates. Yeah, if it were, so one type of voting I'm really a big fan of is ranked choice voting, or
What's
also
that?
called it's also called instant runoff voting, or also alternative single vote or whatever. But basically, on your ballot, instead of saying I'm gonna check off this one for Donald Trump, and then I'm gonna leave Joe Biden, Howie Hawkins, Joe Jorgensen blank. You would do, I'm going to put Donald Trump number 1, I'm going to put Joe Jorgensen number 2, I'm going to put Joe Biden number 3, and I'm going to put Howie Hawkins number 4. So then everybody has ranked votes
Gotcha.
instead of just a single one. And then what you would do is you would say, okay, to win the presidency, you need to get 50% or maybe even better, 60% or whatever of the vote, some number that you decide. Then you tally up everybody's first choice. And if no candidate gets past the threshold, 60%, let's say, then what you do is you look at the person with the least amount of votes, say that's Howie Hawkins, he got 6% of the vote. You remove Howie Hawkins from the race, and you reallocate that 6%, all those people who put Howie Hawkins as number 1. And then you look at those people's number 2s.
Right.
And now you add those votes in. And you keep doing this until you get somebody past 60%.
Gotcha.
So then your vote matters no matter what, because if your first choice doesn't go, then now your second choice is looked at, and it's somebody who you're at least more comfortable with than another candidate.
Right. I like that. I like that a lot because then you don't have as many people that are just like getting their votes thrown away.
Yeah. And then it would actually provide third parties the opportunity to grow, because now if I really want to vote for the Green Party, but in this current circumstance that we live in, I know that voting for the third party is just making Democrats more likely to lose. I don't do that. So the Green Party's never going to get any place of prominence because they're just doomed to less than 1% of the vote. In a ranked choice situation, I could put Green Party as my number 1, Democratic as my number 2, and if everybody else does this, because there's no reason not to anymore, now you would have third parties actually able to win presidencies.
Sure.
Or House seats or whatever.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And then if we did the thing your Macedonian friend was talking about with the vice president being the runner-up, then you could have a primary election where you have lots of candidates and you do ranked choice. So you don't know which of these two it's going to be because you've got, 8 candidates running.
Right.
And whoever the top 2 are, then you would have, your president, your vice president. So you might have a Green Party president and a Libertarian vice president, and they would be very head-to-head, but
Sure.
yeah, they'd have to work together.
Right. That would be very cool.
There's just so many problems with our political system that I think there's an easy fix, and it might not be a fix that's comprehensive and completely solves all our problems, but it's still a fix in the sense that it puts us in a better position, just clearly better to do ranked choice than single vote.
Right. But I mean, the way that the candidates are able to get on the front page as they do it comes from the support of their party. So if you have someone running with ideas to change the system, they're not going to get any support, and they'll never make it anywhere close to the White House.
Yeah, it does threaten the political parties, I guess, makes them, because you've got a whole bunch of people wrapped up in the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, and if you want to change to a ranked choice,
no one's going to want to do it.
It's going to make their parties smaller and weaker.
Yeah. It's like the double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Those ideas traps you.
Although it seems like on a local level it's happening, which might bubble up eventually towards like the entire federal, like nationwide presidential voting, where like there's lots of counties and even some states that use ranked choice. I don't remember. I think one state at least uses ranked choice voting, and it might be Oregon.
Really? I didn't know that.
I might be wrong on that, but I feel like it's Oregon. So if, it keeps on going statewide enough, then eventually maybe in 50 years we'll have it nationwide.
Yeah.
So before, one thing you said that might go somewhere, you mentioned how you didn't want to go on unemployment because you don't want to rely on the government. Well, in that way, how do you feel on democratic issues or even socialist issues? And those aren't the same thing, I guess, democratic and socialism, but
Mm-hmm.
such as expanding things like unemployment or the coronavirus relief packages or universal basic income. Are you opposed to any of those things?
I tend to have very interesting political opinions because everyone I'm surrounded with is very liberal, but
Yeah.
my dad is very conservative. So I definitely have some of those influences on me. But what I would prefer, at the end of the day, it's all about helping people as much as you can, and not letting anyone just go to the wolves. I'm very much for that. So what I would rather do, rather than increase unemployment and those kinds of stimulus packages, although I think stimulus, COVID stimulus packages right now, is an exception to that because we're under extraordinary circumstances. But I would rather boost it in a way, for example, increasing minimum wage, to be able to help have these people, put the money in the hands of the people, so that they don't need to rely on the government as much. And then when you do that, then you don't have to tax people as much to pay for that safety blanket. People are able to stand on their own 2 feet more. Although what I will say, I understand the danger of increasing the minimum wage is that you're redefining what the bottom looks like. So I'll give you an example. If you take McDonald's worker, which is everyone loves to use as the entry-level job example, and now you're saying this is $15 an hour work. I think that's the number that Biden was talking about.
Yeah.
For example, I know my dad's company, which is a big international corporation, requires college education for their people to work there. It's a higher level job. Their entry level pay is $20 an hour. So now everyone who comes in with $20 an hour, they're like, you just redefined, what $8.50 looks like. So now my $20 is worth X amount.
Yeah.
More.
Now instead of being worth more than double minimum wage, it's only an extra 25% on minimum wage.
Yeah, it's I spent 4 years and thousands of dollars on my education, and now it's been the payback has been greatly reduced unless I get bumped. So you'll have these pay bumps that ripple through everything. So now everything costs more, and that would cause inflation. Or that's what my dad would say.
Yeah.
That's that argument. Then I was talking to a friend about this the other day, and his point was, well, the minimum wage is supposed to reflect the bare minimum of what it takes to survive.
Yeah.
And our minimum wage is way outdated. I forgot the date of the last time they calculated it, but you can't live on minimum wage, just on minimum wage in today's society anymore. So maybe it is time to reevaluate that so people don't have to be working double jobs, day jobs and a night job. And then they get in this trap because your hours, you need to be dropping every hour into your work to be able to survive, especially if you have kids or whatever. And then you don't have enough free time to go to school and qualify yourself to go higher.
Yeah. For that upward mobility.
Yeah. So it's a really tricky situation because if you increase all these pays, you're going to have tons of companies fold, right? The place that we work, for example, if now they had to pay all of us $15 an hour, I think they would go bankrupt. I don't think they could afford it.
Yeah, they might. I think, though, at least with what Joe Biden was saying, was that he wanted to, hand in hand with increasing minimum wage, give money to smaller businesses that would need it and are struggling because of coronavirus, so that they wouldn't go out of business when having to pay employees more, so they can update and be up and running with this new idea of what minimum wage is.
Mm-hmm. But where does the money come from to boost the small businesses?
I guess that would be taxpayer dollars, I suppose. And I mean,
you just triggered every conservative person that might be listening.
I did trigger them, but it could be from a different thing. It's just because it's from taxpayer dollars, that doesn't mean necessarily that your taxes would increase. You could take taxes from a different system that tax money is already going to right now, take it away from that, put it towards something else.
Right.
Such as the universal basic income plan that like Yang was putting forth
Yeah.
was taking money, was like getting rid of what is it, Medicare or Medicaid? I always get the two confused.
Hmm.
Getting rid of that completely and then replacing it with UBI.
Oh,
And
I didn't know that that's what he was trying to do.
I think I could have that wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Okay.
So I think part of it was that our like Medicare, Medicaid, whichever one it actually is, the one that's not for old people, the one that's for like people that are unemployed or can't work, and
Yeah.
which I think is Medicare, but it's so like inefficient and there's so much taxpayer money wasted on that that you could
Mhm.
actually pay for the large majority, like the bulk of UBI, just by transferring funds from one system to another because we do one system so poorly.
Well, what I will say, part of the problem with things like UVI, I think there's parts of it that are great and that make a lot of sense. But a lot of the people that are in need don't have financial responsibility. Like they've not been taught that in a lot
Yeah.
of cases, or a lot of people I've talked to. Because growing up, everyone in their family has just been like the day-to-day survival. So people don't teach them in a lot of cases, like, all right, we'll put 20% of everything you earn into savings. This is how you should invest and start growing yourself or whatever. And talk about retirement plans and all of that, and building real estate and capital for yourself or whatever. It's like these people aren't used to surviving. So even if you hand them, $1,000 or whatever, there's no guarantee that they're going to use it wisely. And I don't mean to broadly stereotype and offend anybody.
No, I get that.
And I think that's a fundamental thing that comes out of education.
Yeah.
That as much as people love to point fingers at education, I think that's something that needs to be stressed more.
Yeah. I do see that kind of thing. A lot of people that I know that like live paycheck to paycheck, sometimes I have conversations with them and they're talking about how their paycheck is going to come in this Friday, so they're excited to go do this thing. Like,
Exactly.
it's like, why are you spending your money on a new computer or going out to the bar with your friends on your paycheck day? It's like you're making yourself continue to live paycheck to paycheck, where if you chose to just refrain from, that computer upgrade, spending your entire paycheck on it. I've talked to some people who do that. If you, waited enough time and kept on saving your money, you wouldn't be living paycheck to paycheck anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's not to say that like people that are lower class are stupid or anything like that. But if you take away the safety blanket, like, healthcare or something in the form of UVI, if they don't use their money smartly, then they're really screwed. Then there's nothing to catch them.
Yeah. So I can get on a certain amount, maybe not all the way there, but like I can get where a lot of like conservatives are coming from with the personal responsibility thing. Like, yeah, people do need to learn how to save and like, protect themselves from the future and from that kind of thing. But I don't know, at the same time, it's like you do the less money you have, the harder life becomes for you, and you can get in these like vicious cycles. And I think sometimes you need some sort of external support to get you out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in a lot of cases, if you gave people like UBI money, like $1,000 a month or something, maybe a lot of them would just decide to blow that extra money on something else, and instead of ever trying to save any money, and they would just be continuing to live paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
And now their paycheck is just bigger.
Right.
But I think a lot of other people, I think you would still be doing a net good by all the people who now have the breathing room to actually start saving things, saving.
Sure.
Because I don't think it's necessarily true to say that everybody who is living paycheck to paycheck is spending that paycheck money on unnecessary, just
Oh no, definitely
random
not.
things. There's still a lot of
Yeah.
people who really like they're only spending their money on sustaining their family or like paying off their debts, and even then they can't do it. So,
Right. I guess just I guess my point was the danger is if that money comes from removing the safety blanket,
right.
then those people will be worse off.
Oh yeah, with the Yang idea of it,
Right.
taking away the Medicare.
But I'm all for giving putting money in the hands of the people, and then taking away more taxes on like corporations and business and that kind of thing. I would much rather people be able to stand on their own 2 feet and be able to take away some more of like the government intervention.
Yeah.
I guess I think that just makes more sense.
Yeah.
It becomes less complicated that way.
Yeah, and I don't know, like as far as places that, I don't know what Joe Biden wants to do, but for those conservatives who are wondering about where the taxes are coming from, there are plenty
Mhm.
of good places to take it from. I'm sure some of them you wouldn't be happy with, but one that I'd be happy with is taking it away from the military.
Oh yeah, I'm with you there.
We spend
Absolutely.
we overspend by so much on the military, and we could still have like this really prominent huge military that I know conservatives want to have. We could still have that if we spent just the amount less on it to afford these other things like UBI.
Yeah.
Because if you're spending $1,000 per person on UBI per month, that still amounts to only a fraction of what we're spending on the military.
Right.
So
I'm 100% with you there. The only thing that I don't like is how people love to paint with a broad brush like these larger corporations and businesses as like the enemy, and like, oh, these guys have got billions and billions of dollars lying around everywhere, so like tax them or whatever. And that's been something that's nice about having like my dad as my father to like talk to, because he works for like a bigger company like this. I basically come to realize that even these giant million dollar companies, it's still just as much of a day-to-day struggle to survive. And so like these tax things will like could like make or break their company, which is why I think he tends to be more Republican, basically just for that reason of surviving and having a job to go back to.
yeah, I can get that to a certain degree, but then to another side of it, these giant companies, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them, the CEOs are paid like a crazy amount of money.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, oh, my company might like go under if you like tax me more.
Yeah,
And
it's
like, but what about your personal profits? Like, do you have to take that high of a profit margin? Couldn't
Right.
you just give that back to your company so your company won't go under? Because
right, because like, do you need
$300 million
billions?
a
Yeah,
year
exactly,
in salary? Probably not.
for sure.
If you like, I know this is drastic, but just as an example, if you're a CEO making $300 million a year as your salary, because you're like one of the top Fortune 500 companies or whatever, if you decided to instead make your salary what your lowest paid employee is getting, so you're getting like $55,000 a year instead,
Mhm.
and you put all the rest of that money that you previously were making, just put it back into your company, you wouldn't be you wouldn't have a struggling company. You would have years worth of like security for your company.
Sure, but I guess the argument against that would be, if that's what you have to do to make it happen, then you're disincentivizing
People to start
become
companies.
CEOs and
Yeah,
have their own
because-
business.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a fine line
Yeah.
for sure. Because I like to play with the idea of having my own business one day.
Yeah.
And so I think about that a lot, and all the costs and all of the loopholes you have to run through. So like if you want to open a restaurant, all the insane amount of health checks you have to pass, and like random people showing up to like, my girlfriend's parents own a restaurant, and they've told me like, so they have like random health inspections, which is awesome. Like, I think you shouldn't be able to sell garbage off the
Yeah.
floor or whatever. There's like that level of trust, so that needs to be regulated.
Yeah.
But they have these random people, like it's someone different every time that doesn't know them. And so some people are great, and some people are
Yeah.
like, they'll have, it's like a point system. And so one of their fridges will be a degree off. So then there's so many points off. Or one of their employees washes their hands and doesn't shut off the faucet with the paper towel. So that's so many points off. And it gets to a point where like, now you're going to close unless you get these many points back the next time some random person shows up. And it's just like, you're making it so hard. You know, we're just trying to feed our family or like get our kids to go to college. So that's that balancing act of
Yeah, there's always a
regulating
line of-
and over-regulating versus making it possible and leaving the incentive there for people to go out and do it.
Yeah. I suppose one way they could change that might help, and I'm sure they won't do this, but instead of relying on any individual health report that some guy from the health company that has to go to these restaurants and inspect them,
Yeah.
instead of relying on like, what you scored in August, you could take like your average for a whole period so that you would be evening out the temperament of this one guy who's having a bad day, so he takes it out on you by giving you a really shitty score on the health score of your restaurant. So instead of like that guy coming in, he gives you a 0 because he just got a divorce, and he finds a few things wrong and then he exaggerates them, and your whole livelihood is depending on this one guy.
Yeah.
Or 2 guys, or however long it takes to shut down a restaurant. They could look at longer periods of time, like, oh, your restaurant has been underperforming health-wise for 2 years running now, so we're gonna shut you down.
Right, but then the
Like give
danger
more
is,
lenience to it, I guess.
But then the danger is if you're doing really well at the beginning, then you will probably just start to slack off a bit on the
yeah,
the
like
health
purposely
savings.
not do as well because you know you can
Well, it's
afford
like
to.
you're not going to drill your employees every day on
Yeah.
making sure like you sanitize everything every time because you'll be okay.
Yeah.
So, and I like to think people, don't do that. I think it's common sense. Like the two of us having worked in a restaurant, I always try to be as sanitized and like
Yeah.
responsible as possible because of that level of trust that you have with people coming in. And so I like to imagine most people feel like that, but I guess people would always take advantage of the system if they can. Or
Yeah.
There'll always be those people, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose that kind of line of thinking is something that you see a lot more in like the conservative side of things.
Oh yeah, and I know that's coming straight from my
Yeah,
parents.
where like you need to make things strict because otherwise people will take advantage of it. But then I mean, I guess in certain cases like that one, it kind of works against a conservative mindset because if you're trying to be strict on health codes, then that damages entrepreneurial behavior.
Oh sure, good point.
So with the tax increase on the rich, the $400,000 or more that Joe Biden was talking about,
Mhm.
raising it, I think right now it's something like 21%. He wants to raise it to 28%. Is that something you feel good or bad about?
I don't like punishing the wealthy people for being successful. I know that's kind of a loaded statement, but I think I understand helping people on the bottom, but a lot of people that are successful, some of them it's kind of like their fortunes are handed to them or whatever, which is sure, but a lot of people put in a ton of work compared to other people who didn't feel like it. And so now when you start to punish those people at the top, it's going to de-incentivize. So I guess my dad likes to use this example. He used to work down at like some dock or something. So he would, work hard and earn money so he could save and go to college or whatever. But there was a lot of people who would just stop showing up. And it was because they could only work so many hours to still get unemployment. And so he likes to use that example of the fact that, yes, there are some people who are just born at a disadvantage due to things outside of their control.
Yeah.
And it's unfair for those people to be punished. But at the same time, you'll always have people taking advantage of the system. And if you start to just hurt the people at the top and like redistribute it down to the bottom, it's making it harder for people to become successful or to want to be successful when they could just reap the system.
Yeah, I think
That's mostly a devil's advocate
Yeah.
statement. I don't believe all of that necessarily, but
there's like an equal and opposite reaction to that, I suppose, that you could see is that these successful entrepreneurs, such as like what is displayed in the book Outliers, they so often, turns out, are products of really beneficial circumstances that were outside their control. So they're
Right.
just lucky people.
right, because was it Bill Gates that he talked about in that book where
Yeah.
they were able to find out that they could input some number onto their big computing system at their college that
And it would
gave
just
them
make it
24
free?
access. Yeah,
Yeah.
so he could always just code and
It
like
was either
use...
Bill Gates or the other guy who also had the first name Bill and was a Silicon Valley guy. So they were very similar stories.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so that kind of stuff where it's just out like extraordinary circumstances.
yeah, so then you could say we don't want to punish people from being entrepreneurial and from starting businesses. On the other hand, you could say, why should we reward people extra for things that they also didn't do? And
sure,
I
just
think
like
a lot
the
of
lucky ones.
Yeah, I think a lot of the mindset of being a CEO is thinking that you earned all of this yourself, when it so often turns out that, yeah, you put in effort and you're a hard worker and all that, but there's all these other things that you're not paying attention to that made you successful. And somebody else who, there's circumstances where people are less hardworking, but there's still plenty of people who are equally as hardworking as you are, and their business idea didn't take off and yours just happened to, And if you think about it from a historical context, the current rate of taxes on people that make $400,000 or more is 21%. That's like the lowest it's ever been in history.
Really?
Before Ronald Reagan became president, it was 75%.
Oh my god.
And he cut it
What?
down. He cut it down to I think 32. So he just slashed it like a ton.
I had no idea that it
So
was that high before.
until like 1976 or whatever it was
Mm-hmm.
it was like a huge amount of your income. And then another way to think about it is in terms of tax brackets, somebody who is making a shit ton of money is getting taxed less than somebody who is making $60,000 a year. In proportion to your total income, why should you get taxed less the more money you make?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
If anything, and I still have problems with the flat tax system because as I've actually recently realized, it's not even a fair system in and of itself, but I'm more in favor of a flat tax than this anti-progressive tax system where the rich are getting taxed the least percentage-wise.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me either.
So, if anything, we could just try to make it flat tax, and then there's some modicum of fairness involved there, and it's like no matter who you are, you're getting taxed at this percentage number.
I do think going like 40K and up
Yeah.
is way too broad. So like if you're pulling down 40K and you've got a family of 5,
Well, it's
you're trying to-
$400K for Joe Biden's thing, but
Oh,
yeah, not 40K.
That
40K
makes-
is pretty low.
yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
If you have a family that you're in the poverty, if you
Make it
40,000.
40K, that makes a lot more sense.
Yes, it's 1% of Americans are making more than $400,000 a year.
I see.
Yeah, so it's really only the rich people.
Yeah, I will say, I'm making definitely not 400K. I'm making enough to survive.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like that level seems so ludicrous, 400K.
Yeah.
Whatever. But I'm sure if I ever make it there,
Yeah,
it's like I've got my own goals, or maybe I'm trying to do something that requires huge amounts of money. So you're like, well, screw you. Like I've got my own visions too, and now you're just taking it from me for having attained it.
Yeah, that is a thing too that I see a lot. People aren't currently in circumstances that they're rich, but they imagine that they can get there. Like it's the American dream kind of thing. Like if I just put in enough effort, I will become rich. I'll find success, and I'll get to this point of richness. So I don't want to tax the rich now because I could be rich later.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, well, one, it's very unlikely that that'll happen to you, and
Right.
two, the whole purpose of taxing the rich is so that you can make life easier for people who are in poverty or in the middle classes, with the intention of building the economy and making it more vibrant and making everybody more of a participator in the economy and buying things. And if you give people that have very little money more money by, say, just decreasing their taxes and then increasing taxes on the rich, that allows them, it makes it easier for people like in your position or in, average middle class position. It makes it easier for you to actually become rich in the future. So by increasing the taxes on the rich now and I know people hate the term redistributing wealth from a conservative perspective. You hate that term, but if you redistribute some wealth to the lower classes, you make it easier for the lower class. You give them more upward mobility, so that more people can join the upper classes. So this idea that maybe one day you will become successful and start your own business and become rich, it's harder for you if you're giving the rich people such leeway. If you increase taxes on them so that you can give back to the rest of society, now it's easier for the rest of society to meet them, to come up to their level.
Yeah, maybe it's like my personality trait, but I think what always pushes me away from that is it feels like very inherently selfish. Because I'm like, oh, well, they made it this way, but now I'm like, screw you, I want to do it an easier way, so give me your money. And I know there's people that would affect that need it a lot more than me, and so that I get. But I think that's part of my initial gut reaction of why I don't like that idea.
Yeah, I think from that perspective, or from a different way, you could probably put selfishness on both sides. Because from a person who's making over $400,000 a year, is it selfish of them to fight against their taxes being raised because they just want that money? They don't want to let it help other people because that's, I guess, the intention. Maybe they don't think of it that way. Maybe they think that it's not actually going to help people, so it's a waste of money for them to get taxed. But if the taxes are actually going to be helping other people, then it does seem selfish of a rich person to fight against their taxes getting raised.
Yeah, but it's like a broad brush of those people, and often I feel like it's, oh, you're making money? Screw you. I want money too, so give me some.
Yeah. I don't know. From my perspective, I think it's more of just trying to make it more fair and not give people extra income for already being rich. It's like, it's kind of like making it spiral in both directions. Like if you're not very well off, it's making it harder and harder for you, and if you are well off, it's making it easier and easier for you.
Right. And like just trying to balance it out a bit.
trying to make it basically equality of opportunity for everybody.
Right. Which is like what ideally this country stands on.
Yeah. And which is different from equality of outcome, because you're not saying that like no matter what you do, you're going to be making this amount of money. It's like you still have to try, but you're giving people the actual ability to even do it in the first place, to even try.
Right.
Because like you were saying before, with people who are working minimum wage jobs and they don't have the time to go to school because they have to spend as much time as they can working to actually feed their family.
Right.
It's like those people don't have any ability to move upwards because they have to spend so much of their time doing something that they don't want to be doing, but they're forced into. And if you redistributed some wealth to them now, they wouldn't have to work so much and could spend that time going to school.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I agree with you there.
Yeah.
For sure. Because it's not like school's an easy way out. It's so much work and stuff.
Yeah,
So
you still have to
have
put in
that-
effort.
Right.
It's not just
level of
giving people
commitment.
easy answers or like giving people free rides to things.
Right. You're just opening some doors so that
Yeah.
they can put in the work if they want to.
Yeah. And also the thing with for instance, like UBI again. If you're giving lower classes, or I mean really it's UBI, it's universal, so you're giving everybody. But if you're giving lower classes extra money, it's not like you're making them rich. It's not like you're even, from the perspective of a lower class person, an extra $1,000 a month is a big deal. From the perspective of a person who's making $400,000 a year, an extra $1,000 a month is not such a big deal.
Right.
It's pretty negligible. So like you're really improving one person's life at the cost of very slightly decreasing the quality of another person's life, And I don't even know if, like, they say that's the limit on how much money affects your happiness. Like after a certain point, you no longer become extra happy, or your life doesn't get better after a certain point in like how much money you earn. They say that point is $100,000.
Oh, really?
So like the more money you earn, up to $100,000, the happier you get, because you can,
You
live
stop
comfortably.
stop worrying about money all the time.
And then they say after $100,000, your life doesn't. I mean, obviously now you can buy jets and yachts, or you can do extra things, but it doesn't actually affect your happiness when people do happiness surveys.
Sure.
So I don't even know that $1,000 a month. This isn't even how it would work. But if we were taking just directly, if you make $400,000 a month, I make $1,000 a month, and if we take $1,000 from you and give it to me, it's not going to affect your happiness at all, because you're already above that threshold, and it's going to affect my happiness. It's going to double it because
Right.
I'm making so little.
Yeah. I see that argument. I feel like people would still get pissed about it, though.
Yeah. People don't like an interference onto things, but I don't know. It's like, do you still oppose interference when the system that you're interfering upon is so flawed to begin with?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's like your arm is bleeding and a Band-Aid is interference, but you might need it.
Sure. I like that way of looking at it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
All right. Well, we've been going for about 2 hours-ish now.
Okay.
So before we end, I've been doing this with every episode.
Okay.
Favorite book, or just a book recommendation for the audience?
I love Kurt Vonnegut a lot.
Do you have a specific book?
Yeah, I've been reading a lot of his stuff lately. I still think about Jailbird a lot. It's so clever. Like some of the character arcs in there, and like the way that people are related, that like their relationship is like revealed over time is so interesting, and he always goes an unexpected route that I never expect. But he's a fantastic writer, super funny, super smart, and he's always got something interesting to say about like our society. So Kurt Vonnegut, Jailbird.
Yeah,
Should
I
check
haven't
it
read
out.
Jailbird, but I've read Slaughterhouse-Five.
That's one of his biggest ones.
Yeah.
And it's got a lot, at least to me, it felt a lot more serious than his other works.
Oh, okay.
So if that's like all you know from him, because I know a lot of people read that in school and stuff because of its World War II prevalence, you should read some other stuff by him.
Yeah.
And he's got a pretty mixed bag. He gets pretty heavily into sci-fi in like the middle of his career, and it gets pretty strange, and people aren't as big a
Slaughterhouse
fan.
5 is kind of sci-fi.
Oh yeah, it's with the Tralfamadorians or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, but people like to say that his golden age is the beginning of his career and the end of his career.
Oh,
and
okay.
so you should check it. You've got Cat's Cradle is a good one.
Yeah.
Sirens of Titan is a good one.
Yeah, we got to read more by him for sure.
He's great. I like him. And then I know you just asked me for one, but
Oh no, it's getting more is fine.
I also like Skinny Life with Woodpecker. That's a Tom Robbins book. Tom Robbins is great too. Those two are in a similar vein in their writing styles. Tom Robbins is a bit harder to digest, I think, just from it feels a lot more confusing when you read it. It's like more intricate. But he's a beautiful writer, and he's got interesting things to say about society. And Skinny Life with Woodpecker is good, and he's kind of weird, you know. But I love weird authors and just like getting a view into their mind, like how it works. So those are some great ones.
Nice. Yeah, that is pretty cool when authors have unique writing styles, and it makes you think in a different way than you normally do.
Yeah, you can just tell that they are completely living in their own world,
Yeah.
and you just get to see like a little bit of the madness. I love it.
Yeah, that's one thing I like about reading in general. Like if it's fiction, like if you're reading from a character's perspective or lots of characters' perspectives, I feel like it allows you to live more lives than just what you otherwise would have. There's this quote that I like that goes something like, man who never reads lives only one life. A man who reads lives like 1,000 before he dies.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, something like that. But
Yeah. Absolutely, because if you think about watching a movie or something, there's only it's more largely your perception of like what they're trying to show you than versus when you're reading. It feels almost like you're just digesting their direct thoughts.
Yeah.
And you can get a lot closer to their intention, I feel like.
Yeah.
Written. It's still your perception, but I think you get a lot closer to their heart or whatever. That sounded cheesy, but
Yeah.
I
Well,
think it's
yeah,
true.
with a book, it's definitely more direct, just author to you, and maybe an editor like in there. But like
Yeah.
with a movie, yeah, you've got the like screenwriter, author, whoever made the original thing, then the director who's imposing their own idea on it, and then all the actors, and then you've got so many
wardrobe and
steps
makeup and
along the way
special
that are
effects and
other people's influence getting
Right.
in there. So it's not just one person's take on an idea.
Right.
It's a ton of people's.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for podcasting with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Wayne. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was cool. I enjoyed learning about things. Any parting words?
Any parting words? Support your local ballet theater, I guess, in these times. If you've never been to one, you should go. If you've only been to the Nutcracker, go to something else. It's a whole world. I feel like a lot of people don't know about it. So definitely check it out for sure.
Yeah, I'll definitely go. When is do you know like the date of the upcoming next performance?
I think here in Milwaukee, the next big one we're going to do is February
Oh, okay.
or something after Nutcracker is done.
Okay, cool.
So check it out.